Okay, what's up people? Welcome back to the channel. Alright, I cannot be quiet no more. I'm gonna go ahead and... I wanted to make this video earlier this week. Did not have time. I'm gonna go ahead and make the video now, especially because we're pretty much solidified with some of the results that we gotten from our last YCS. I only have the results from the Pasadena one. That was the one that happened in my area, down here in California. It was I forgot where the other one happened, but it was basically the same thing. We're not going to sit there and tell you things we already know. Let's just go ahead and look at this. One Sprite, tiers all across the board, and flu, Sprite, flu, and tier. We've essentially been we've already known this was going to happen, and we are here in a tier 0 format. And for I guess for like there's probably a lot of people that already know this, a lot of people that I maybe don't know something like this, but I'm gonna tell you right now, this tier 0 format is not as bad as you think. Although I do have a bit of a opinion that might contradict what I just said right now, but I'm gonna go ahead and say my point. I got a couple things out. We we kind of cannot deny that tier elements, tier Shizu is just very dominant. It's one of those decks where even with the counters out there available, it still is able to dominate. But I just gotta say, this is nothing compared to other tier 0 formats we had. Other tier 0 formats, it felt way more oppressive, way more you had no choice. This right here, like, you have a choice at other things that you want to do. Like, it isn't essentially it isn't essentially set in stone that you have to win with tier. It's just easier to win with tier, but if you're not skilled enough to play tier, then you kind of have no choice. You got to play Sprite, got to play Flu. You have also other choices. I kind of want to go over some of these. Dimensional Shifter. Dimensional Shifter is just huge right now. Takes out not only not only Share Elements, but it very much screws with it screws with so it screws with the sprite a little bit, but for the most part, a lot of rogue decks I want to compete, lose to Shifter. So Shifter being the meta just really kind of holds back a lot of decks and brings and kind of makes it to where you either play a deck that is strong enough to play, I wouldn't say play through Shifter, but strong enough to kind of to kind of not like I guess I don't know. I'm not trying to say tier element doesn't care about Shifter, but they're like, if you have it, you have it. If you don't, you don't. Because if you can't OTK me, and if you don't have another Shifter, or you don't do the Flaunderies play and start, getting rid of your graveyard to double Shifter, if you can't kill me next turn, then I'm probably just gonna go off. So yeah, so like just having Shifter there is good, but at the same time, it does kind of hold back Rogue. You got the Bystials. A lot of people are running the Bystial engine in their deck to kind of add that extra rogue, not rogue, but like extra DD Crow element into the deck to kind of like come out of nowhere and just you have a monster you're able to interrupt and negate. This really does get around a lot of the annoying effects. You have evenly matched banishing cards face down. Also the Kashira Fenrir, that's another good card banishing face down. There's a couple of other examples that I'm not thinking of right now, but this is mostly just to let you know that there is outs. Like banishing face down is very strong right now. Going second with evenly matched is very good. Having these in your deck, this is a good counter. That's a good counter. Soul Drain, Floodgates in general. I'm not going to bring out all the other Floodgates because depending on the matchup, certain Floodgates and certain decks become very broken. But Floodgates, also Floodgates like Necro Valley, which is a card that I talked about on Market Watch earlier. Those are cards that are very, 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 very powerful and could very much impact not only the game but like the actual meta. Kind of how like Mystic Mind came in and just kind of warped and made people start paying attention to back row cards again, which kind of also ruined back row decks in a way. But either way, it's like you have these floodgates, and this could kind of make make people realize that what, running Soul Drain, Rivalry, Skill Drain, you know uh, Necro Valley, screw it, let's just go with all the ones that are more popular. Running those cards are actually good. Like, maybe I don't have to spend $600-700. I don't have to spend 728, 669. Nice, you feel me? Like I don't have to spend 839. I don't have to spend this money. Maybe I could just pick the right cards and then kind of like you feel me? It's like you don't. This is one thing different from other Tier Zero formats to where I'm gonna get to the reason why, but other Tier Zero formats, you just felt like you had no choice. Like you had to play Dragon Rulers or you had to play spell books. I guess some people say that they competed. To be honest, I really saw spell books as just the counter that could sometimes stop Dragon Ruler. I got a lot of people out there would say this, and that. But to be honest, as someone who not only who played that format, who built the deck, who played Evil Swarm in that format, and then transitioned to playing. Oh yeah, oh, getting passionate here, and kind of like transitioned to playing that like that deck throughout in the middle of the beginning of the Dragon Ruler format. I've Spellbooks were good. Yeah, yes, they were good. I guess it's kind of the same as like a Shifter is now. Like if they were able to get Jowgen out and you couldn't out it, then you would lose. But 9 times out of 10, Jowgen either wasn't enough or you had the out. So it's like like you have decks like we'll just throw it in there. I don't know why I went on a rant for no reason, but you have these tier zero decks, and you felt like you had no choice but to run Dragon Ruler, no choice but to run Zodiac. You had to run Spiral. You had to run Necros just because of how the meta was. This format, I really don't feel it's like that. Although the results will vary, but you got to understand like a lot of these events, these are like pro players or like if they're not pro players, they are very good players who have taken their time to really understand the game and understand the meta to the point where they know how to build these chains during certain matchups in these certain ways, so that way they're able to optimize their deck. I know that sounds very straightforward, but there's a lot of people out there that really just play Yu-Gi-Oh and they think that they're good at Yu-Gi-Oh, but they don't realize how much that what they're not doing. Like there's a lot of situations where you might have made a play that seems fine, but in reality was a complete misplay. Like you should have done less, or you should have went into this instead of that because you could have done this later. Right? There's just a lot of stuff in Yu-Gi-Oh. So I there you go, going on a rant again. But yeah, so we'll just stick with Soul Drain here, man. It's like I really feel like, oh, I know where I was. Basically, this format, I don't feel like you are forced to run the tier 0. I'm sorry about that, guys. I'm just very passionate about this topic right now. I really don't feel like you're forced to run tier elements. If you really take your time and think, you could pick out the right like Floodgate style cards. If you want to run a deck that's going second, if you want to kind of run this, if you're able to incorporate that, you could find the right cards in this meta compared to to other metas, to be able to run it. Yeah, the Lightning Storm, this is another card that I brought up that really helps you, going second. Um, Avoid this. I brought this up because this Ophion, I love Ophion. I love Ophion. I would love for Ophion to be meta. I would love for Ophion to just be the best thing in the world, and we all just go about our day, and we're just like, yep, we're all Ophion fans, and Ophion just saves the day. I'm sorry, Ophion is not and will not save the day right now. Maybe if we could bring it out in the like in the Phantom Knight deck when they used to, but unfortunately just because the links and because there's a lot of rank 4 right now, we would need to be in a meta that is very much more focused on summoning level 5 or higher, and that don't have a lot of summons that are level 4s and stuff. It just, yeah, just avoid this. This is not the answer. But what I do want to bring up right now is this is the reason right here. Well, I'm about to go to the next page, but on the next page, this is the reason why this tier 0 format is a little bit better than the other tier 0 formats. We do not have to deal with this thing. Okay? If you play Master Duel, you understand how freaking annoying this card is. I love this card. I would like this card back. Why? Because I have a whole bunch of freaking copies and I probably make a bunch of money. But I have my 3 copies to play. I have a whole bunch of freaking copies to sell. I would love for this card to come back. But Max C, if you think about it, has existed in pretty much every single Tier 0 format. Like almost every Tier 0 format. I mean, of course, like Yada doesn't count. I guess like I guess Goat format would be like 2-0 because there's different kind of decks. But like the whole Yada thing, I guess Yada's considered Tier 0. For Dad, for the Dark Arm Dragon deck, I believe there was a point where Maxi was legal, but at the same time, maybe not, because I think it came out like in 2011 or 12. So by then, Dark Arm Dragon was already out. So around 2012 until it was banned in around 2011, no, 2011, 2017, 17 or 18, I can't remember. But it's like this: you got the Dragon Rulers, you got Zodiac, you got Necros, and then you also have the last one that was Spiral. You have 4 Tier 0 decks and a Pendulum. That's 5. You have like 5 Tier 0 decks that Max C was available in at some capacity. I'm pretty sure the last ones were maybe at 1, but either way, this is the sole reason why these Tier 0 formats do not feel as restricted as the other formats. Having just the fact this card isn't there just kind of makes it better, because if Tier Elements had access to Max C, it'd be over. It'd be over. It doesn't matter how many shifters you're doing or whatever. Like, having Max C is just so broken. So having this card out of the way is fine. But I do want to bring something up. I should have had this already brought. Should have had this up already. Okay, here we go. Alright. So, the Forbidden List. Why did I randomly bring this up? This is not a discussion video. Screw it. I'll probably bring out a discussion video in a couple days or so. I do need to bring out a lot of context. I do need to catch up. But, why did I bring this up? Although, like I said, I was gonna say something that was gonna contradict the hell out of, very much contradict what I said in the beginning, but I do believe that this format kind of warrants an emergency ban list. I know, that's really dumb to say, oh, you just said this is a completely fair, Tier 0 format, but you think it's deserving of an emergency ban list? Yes, I do, and the reason why I believe that we could, I mean, I'm not saying we will, but the reason why we could get an emergency ban list is not even the Tier 0 aspect. Tier Elements being Tier 0 deck is not the problem. The Tier Elements are not the problem. Like, they could be Tier 1, Tier 0, whatever the hell they want. The problem is the Ishizu cards. The fact that you are able to send, in the right circumstance, 20 cards, like if you're going first, you could do the combo to send 5 and 5, and then the next turn do 5 and 5. If you could do that, sending 20 cards from your opponent's deck to the graveyard, if they do not have a strategy that, obviously if they don't have a strategy that benefits from that, that is just a death sentence. That is just wild. You feel me? Like that is very hard to come back from. It isn't like, oh, like, well, maybe let me get Monster Reborn. Like, no, like there's a lot of decks to where you send, you send enough cards to the grave and they're just unplayable, very much unplayable. And the only way to kind of combat that is to play decks that, either play decks that really very much benefit from Shifter, or could play with Shifter like Fluandereeze, or decks that don't mind having their stuff in the graveyard. I was gonna say Splice for some reason, but I guess you could throw Splice in the grave and just a certain kind of build. But I guess a Burn Abyss, just to say whatever, just Burn Abyss, whatever. Let's just throw a random archetype out there. Like, it somewhat makes people feel like, why should I play the game if I can't even get a shot to fight back? Like, Of course, like if the challenge player doesn't mill the right cards or they don't get the full combo, then maybe they're only taking out five and they can still play. So I guess that's the aspect of where I feel like it's fair because you do have a chance to play through these boards. Like it isn't like some other tier zero formats where you have a whole bunch of like you have just like an unlimited amount of negates or you just have a whole bunch of these quick effects. Like some of it is a bit of RNG to where you do have to mill the right cards. Some of it is like, it's like if you do build your chains right, maybe you can stop certain things from happening because like, there is a way for them, they could build all their chains and you could get rid of certain targets to where they cannot fusion summon. So, there is ways to have them, kind of like, I'm gonna say where's the word fizzle, whatever, like not resolve some of their effects, but for like, like for the most part, if they go off, they're messing with your deck is very, very, very bad. So I'm not saying Konami's gonna do it, but at the same time, I could see them maybe bringing some of the Shizu cards down. Like I don't know exactly which one they would want to bring to one or want to bring to two. Probably like the uh, Quebec and the freaking Sentinel. Maybe those are the two they want to bring to one, and maybe the other ones are fine at three. But right here it says the next update for this will be in a few months. So in a few months. This is very, very vague. It could mean 2 months. It could mean 20 months. We have no idea. I would not be surprised if Konami maybe by the end of the year releases maybe a small slap on the wrist, kind of hit. But at the same time, that might come with hits to Flaunderies and it might come with hits to Sprite just because they might want to just get rid of those cards and they really nuke, the freaking they nuke the Tier Element Ishizu deck. Like I'm not saying they hit the Ishizu because I think the Tier Element cards are fine. It's the Ishizu card which just takes them to a completely different level to where Konami might want to kind of like especially if Konami doesn't want. Because here's the thing: if Konami doesn't want to do a ban list, like if they want to say, you know what, we want to wait 6 months, then they're gonna have to do an emergency ban list because there's no way we could do 6 months of freaking of this tier zero Shizu because like I really don't see anything coming out that's just game changing unless we're just constantly changing up like the format. So Konami is gonna do one of two things. They're gonna release I guess technically three things, but like one of those things is kind of the same thing. Either they're gonna release a ban list within like probably within the next 2 months, so either the end of December or the end of January to kind of just so that way we only do like a 4 month tier zero format, which would be quick. Or they might do an emergency ban list and just limit a couple of the Ishizu cards, so that way they're not that much of a problem, but still there. So that way Elements becomes it's still gonna be the best deck. Like it isn't gonna take away it isn't gonna take anything away, but it'll stop their ability from just ruining other decks unless they get like the perfect hand. So that's a possibility. Or maybe they might just release a complete ban list, by the end of the year because it just has a few months, and this one did come out in October. So you got October, November, December. So you got like 3 months right there. So you got all of October, all of November, all of December. That's three, and then at the end of January. So, like, it is possible for them to either do an emergency ban list, so that way they don't have to do a ban list for another like 4 months after that if they don't want, or they could just do a regular ban list at the end of the year, set a clean slate, and get us ready for the next upcoming regional season. Because I really don't know. I really don't know. It's very conflicting for me because it's fair, but it's only fair if they don't hit a bunch of cards. Like if they hit 10 cards and they're not the worst cards, or you run a deck that could benefit off that, then it's fine. But if they hit the right cards, then like it's the same as getting completely locked out of your deck. If they hit all your one-ups, they hit your combo piece. If like for example, I'm playing Flaunderies and I was playing Tier Elements, at the locals, and I was fine. He did full combo, milled 20 cards, through the first and second turn, and on the fifth, on the last 5 cards, like the last 3 cards he milled was my last M pen, and I was like, man, I just needed a level 7 bird to tribute to go off and be able to, because I had the the one that lets you tribute other monsters, so I had the setup. But the fact that he milled my last level 7 or higher wing beast monster, and and also the fact that he had a full board, I wasn't able, I wasn't able just to recycle things because he was gonna start negating me, obviously. So it was just to a point where, man, if he just would have not have milled that card, then I would have had an out. I could have just played this and just started normal summoning, and then eventually I would have gotten to my little combo line. And I'm not saying I would have won, but it would have still gave me a shot. Like, I saw the way that I could have won, especially because I hit it with some hand traps. So it's just messing with the deck is the part that really makes me think that maybe that's a little bit too far, because it's like let's think of it this way. Like, you have hand loops. Hand loops completely destroy you, but they leave all your deck. This is just a reverse hand loop. Instead of getting rid of your hand, they're getting rid of the cards in your deck. So it's like you may still have a full hand, and yes, the way Yu-Gi-Oh is designed, you can use grave monsters, and you can have grave effects, and you can maybe have certain cards that could recycle, and you could do something. but like, there's so many strategies that just don't work like that. It forces you have to run Splight, you have to run Flu, you have to run BA, or I'm just going to use BA as the universal deck that works off the graveyard. You have to run these cards, and I think that's something Konami doesn't like. Like Konami doesn't mind tier 0 formats, as like, as long as there's still, like, diversity. But the only problem is there is diversity, but there's also a very limited diversity. Like, there is, like, it's very hard to, like, it's very hard to just grab your freaking your tier 2 deck and just throw some floodgates in there and just go in. It's like you have to play Flaunery or Sprite and throw those going second cards, and throw those hand traps, and throw those freaking floodgates, and then you might have a shot if they don't mill the right cards from your deck. That's it, guys. That's the end of my rant. I don't know if this is going to make sense to any people. I don't know if anyone's even going to watch the whole thing. It doesn't really matter. Thanks for sticking around. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I got the giveaway going on. So yeah, that's it. Peace out, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.